Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. I want you to picture yourself stepping into the pages of a beautifully illustrated cinematic comic book. You're a beginner researcher and you're pushing open the heavy oak doors of this ancient, dimly lit academic library. You know that smell? Old paper, dust, and pure possibility? Well, you aren't just here to find books on stats or methods. We're here to track down something much deeper, the invisible beliefs that act as guides for literally every single researcher's journey. These are the foundational philosophies that shape everything we do in academia, and honestly, unlocking them is the very first step to mastering research. So, ask yourself, what actually are the invisible beliefs shaping your research? It's a pretty profound question, right? You see, every researcher brings this deeply ingrained philosophical worldview into their study. Whether you realize it consciously or not, you walk into your research with a set of assumptions about how the world works, and these assumptions completely influence what you choose to study, how you study it, and what you even consider to be the truth. So today, we're going to make the invisible visible. Okay, let's dive into this. The foundational scholar Egon Guba hit the nail on the head when he defined a worldview as simply a basic set of beliefs that guide action. Some folks call these paradigms, others call them epistemologies or ontologies, but ultimately they're general philosophical orientations. And depending on your discipline, your mentors, or even your past experiences, these beliefs are going to lead you to embrace a strongly qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods approach. It's essentially the invisible compass guiding your methodological ship.
Part 1. The building blocks, ontology and epistemology.
All right, before we meet these specific guides waiting for us in this library, you're going to need two magical artifacts. The first one, the ontology mirror. When you look into it, it asks you one massive question. What is reality? Ontology is all about our core assumptions about the nature of being. Does reality exist out there, completely independent of our minds, just waiting to be measured? Or is reality a social construction, constantly shifting based on human perception and interaction? How you answer that dictates what kind of phenomena you even believe are worth studying in the first place. Now, right next to that mirror, you pick up the epistemology compass. And this artifact asks, what counts as valid knowledge? Epistemology is really just about the relationship between the knower, so that's you, the researcher, and the known. How do we know what we claim to know? If you believe objective facts and hard numbers offer the best evidence, well, your compass points one way. But if you believe narratives, opinions, and deep interpretations are the key to knowledge, your compass points in a completely different direction. Guide 1. The Postpositivist Lens. Armed with your mirror and compass, you walk a bit deeper into the library, and you meet your very first guide, the Postpositivist. I want you to imagine a highly structured, meticulous guide holding clipboards literally full of charts, experimental designs, and cause and effect arrows. They hold a deterministic philosophy, meaning they believe causes determine effects. It's highly reductionistic, so they take big, complex ideas and reduce them into small, testable variables. For the postpositivist, knowledge comes from careful, empirical observation of an objective reality. But here is the post in postpositivism. They acknowledge human knowledge is conjectural. We can never find absolute, unquestionable truth when studying human behavior. We can only test theories, fail to reject hypotheses, and continuously refine our understanding. Now, what's really interesting here is how the researcher John Creswell perfectly categorizes our guides into 4 distinct paradigms. Think of this matrix right here as our master map of the library. You can see postpositivism sitting right there in the top left, heavily focused on reductionism and theory verification. But as you can see, there are 3 other distinct paradigms waiting to be explored. Let's move to the next. Guide 2. The Constructivist Lens. Stepping away from all those charts and measurements, our researcher meets the second guide, the Constructivist. Picture them sitting in a cozy, comfortable circle, surrounded by a super diverse group of people, and everyone is sharing these intricate life stories. Constructivism is really the backbone of qualitative research. This lens assumes individuals develop subjective meanings of their experiences. And these meanings aren't just magically imprinted on us, they are negotiated socially and historically through our interactions with others. So instead of starting with a theory to test like the postpositivist, a constructivist uses broad, open-ended questions to inductively generate a theory or pattern of meaning right from the ground up.
Notice the stark contrast here. The postpositivist drive is all about reducing the world into measurable, independent variables, right? Trying to capture an objective reality. But the constructivist, they completely flip that script. They embrace the messy, complex, socially negotiated reality of human experience, where one guide uses a rigid survey to test a hypothesis, the other uses an open-ended interview to really understand a lived experience. It's two completely different ways of looking at the exact same world.
Guide 3. The transformative lens.
But what happens when traditional research methods just fail to capture the realities of the oppressed? Well, enter our third guide, the transformative worldview. Imagine this incredibly passionate guide standing shoulder to shoulder with marginalized communities, and they're holding a megaphone, not a clipboard. Pioneers of this worldview felt that post-positivist structural laws simply didn't fit marginalized individuals. And honestly, constructivists didn't go far enough in advocating for actual change. The transformative lens is inherently political. It zeroes in on inequalities based on gender, race, disability, and class. The research isn't just about passively observing, it is actively collaborative. It involves the participants in the research process itself to empower them and reform oppressive institutions. So the crucial point is captured beautifully in this quote from Mertens. For the transformative researcher, there is absolutely no pretending that research is perfectly neutral. There's just no way. The work is explicitly value-laden. The very act of inquiry is completely intertwined with the political change agenda. The ultimate goal here is emancipation and fighting social oppression, making this a highly action-oriented framework.
Guide 4. The pragmatic lens.
Finally, our beginner researcher turns the corner and meets the fourth and final guide, the pragmatist. Visually, this guide has their sleeves rolled up and they're actively solving a real-world problem using a massive, mixed bag of diverse tools. Pragmatists are wonderfully flexible. They focus on the consequences of actions and they are fiercely problem-centered. They don't commit to any single philosophical system of reality. Instead, truth for a pragmatist is literally just what works at the time. Because of this incredibly pluralistic approach, pragmatism actually provides the primary philosophical foundation for mixed methods research. If a survey and an interview together give the best understanding of the problem, the pragmatist is going to use both without a second thought.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the end goal shifts. While both the transformative and pragmatic researchers might actually use mixed methods, their ultimate aims are completely different. The transformative researcher's ultimate aim is advocacy. It's about achieving social justice. The pragmatic researcher's goal is practical, eclectic problem-solving to inform future practice. One is driven by a mandate for massive societal change. The other is driven by just finding the most useful, workable solution to a specific question.
Choosing your loans. So bring yourself back to the center of our metaphorical library. Standing there, holding your ontology meter and your epistemology compass, you look around and you see all four guides, the post-positivist, the constructivist, the transformative, and the pragmatist, and you realize they're really distinct, powerful lenses that you can wear. If you throw on the post-positivist lens, you're designing experiments to measure and verify causes. With the constructivist lens, you're conducting deep interviews to understand subjective human meanings. The transformative lens means your research design is going to be collaborative to advocate for social change. And that pragmatic lens, it lets you mix and match tools to solve a problem with whatever works best. Which brings us to the core takeaway of this entire explainer. Your worldview shapes what you ask, what you measure, and what you accept as evidence. Period. It dictates your entire academic reality. You cannot be a perfectly neutral observer. Your invisible beliefs are always at play, guiding your hand from your very first research question straight through to the final data analysis. And so, as you prepare to walk out of this library and step into the actual field of your study, I'm going to leave you with this. Which lens will you choose to navigate your next discovery? Don't just let your philosophy be an accident. Consciously examine your hidden beliefs, choose your guide wisely, and go produce some incredible research. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.